Welcome to Module 4, Video 3 of the Lead Quizzes Facebook Comprehensive Guide. In this video, we're going to be talking about scaling your ad campaigns. Joining us again, we have Donnaberry Visor, Lead Quizzes co-founder. Thanks for joining us, Donnaberry.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so Donnaberry, what is the most important thing to know before we scale our ad campaigns?
Before you start thinking about scaling, you want to make sure that your ads are profitable and you're hitting your objectives. You have your baseline figured out, and you know, hey, if I generate a lead for $2, I know I'm gonna convert them and make $20 or $30 off of them. So really understanding your metrics and having your funnel dialed in is what you need to do before you start scaling your ad campaign. Because last thing you want to do is scale your ad campaign, spend a lot of money on your ads, and then none of those people convert into actual paid customers.
Or you don't know your numbers.
Yeah, or you just don't know your numbers, and you think things are going well, and you're in the hole.
Okay, so guys, first things first, know your numbers before you even think about scaling. If you guys don't know your numbers, go back, watch some of our other videos, and then come back when you're ready, and we can talk to you about scaling. Those of you that are ready to start scaling, Donnaberry is going to share with us some different tips and different steps you should take when it comes to scaling. There's a lot of information out there, so he's going to boil it down into the most important information for you. So Donnaberry, what's the first thing that we can do in terms of scaling? What's the first best practice?
The first best practice when it comes to scaling is if you have a campaign that's performing well, what you want to do is duplicate the ad set and increase the budget on there. Add a little bit, increase the budget on the new ad set that you just duplicated. And that's the number one thing that I do. If I see something that's performing, what I do is I'm going to duplicate it, increase the budget on it, and then let it run.
So the original one, we keep the same budget. We don't touch that one, and we don't make any changes to the new ad. Is that right?
Yeah, you don't make any changes to the new ad.
Okay, awesome. How long do we let that run to see if it's actually working? Is the cost going to go up and then stabilize? What have you seen there?
I usually let it run for a good 48 hours to see what the numbers look like. Sometimes I let it run longer. It just really depends on what Facebook is doing that day, and you just gotta really watch your ads and watch the cost.
Okay. So what is the second thing we should do? I know there's a lot of information out there. I never know what to believe and what not. You do all the research for me, which I greatly appreciate, and he tells us what we should be doing. So second thing that we should do when it comes to scaling.
When it comes to scaling, if let's say for example you have a custom audience and the custom audience has been performing really well for you, and now you can't really spend too much more on the custom audience because the reach is very low. Let's say you only have a custom audience size of 50,000, but you want to reach more. You want to reach more people. So now other ways that you can scale is now start to do a lookalike audience on the custom audience, and you can do a lookalike audience at 1%, 2%, 5%, and you can use those audiences as a way to try to reach similar people to your custom audience that have been performing well for you, and then you can spend some budget there and see if you can scale through lookalike audiences.
And then you could eventually turn off your custom audience and just run this lookalike, which is going to continue to grow.
Yeah, or you don't even turn off your custom audience at all. You just keep it running, and you're able to just reach more. You're just able to reach more people.
Now, when it comes to scaling, do you ever recommend we turn off the original campaign we had, or do we keep that going once we're scaling?
Over time, you're just going to have to switch off the original campaign because frequency is going to get to a point where it's too high and the cost is going to go up. So at a certain point, you're going to have to turn off the original campaign and iterate on it. So you're always going to constantly, as you scale, you're always going to constantly have to build like new ads. New ad sets. You're gonna have to build new targeting to just try to reach more people as as your numbers improve and you keep on seeing results. So you're just gonna have to just keep testing.
But don't turn off the original campaign immediately. Keep it on for at least a little bit during that scaling process. If
your original campaign is working, keep it on. There's no reason to turn off an original campaign that's working. What you just want to do is you just want to reach more people and spend more on ads.
Okay. So if neither of those work, what is another option that we have when it comes to scaling? Is there another option?
Yeah, so another thing that you can do is just increase the budget on your original ad set that's working for you, and you can increase it slowly over time, between 10 to 30% at a time, no more than once in a 24-hour period. And you just you want to gradually just increase the budget. So like Facebook makes the adjustment. You don't want to just increase the budget by 90% overnight, and because what usually ends up happening when you do that is ad costs will just shoot up, and it'll shoot up out of your range, and it may throw off all of your metrics that you had.
And that's just because Facebook has like an algorithm that we need to follow, and it's basically a way to keep it in. Why does that happen? Where eventually you get up to the 90%, it's fine, but if you do it right away, it just shoots up.
You just with anything, you just don't want to introduce too many changes. When you increase your budget by like 90% overnight, you're basically introducing a ton of changes to your ads. Like you may have not changed anything, but just that having to tell Facebook to spend more, 90% more in just a short amount of time, Facebook's gonna readjust the way they're serving your ads, and that might cause your ads to be a lot more expensive. So you just want to introduce small amount of changes over time. So if things don't work out, you can readjust a little bit back to where it was.
So it's kind of like when you're a kid and you ask your mom for a piece of candy, and like a small piece, like, okay, maybe she'll do that. But if you ask for 10, she's going to not give it to you, and you're basically going to get nothing. So your cost is going to shoot up in that respect. So do it slowly at a time. Don't get greedy, guys. You can eventually, get to a higher percentage, but 10 to 30% at a time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what are some tips that we should know when it comes to scaling? So you went over the 3 best practices that we should be doing. What are some other tips that we should be looking at?
You just got to know your numbers before you start scaling. Again, like I said at the beginning of this module, you don't want to spend money if you're not making money.
And continue to track your numbers. Don't just look at them when you're starting to scale. Don't look at them again for a week and a half. Like, make sure you're continually following your numbers, and it makes sense for you to continue to scale. There's nothing wrong with scaling back if your numbers don't match.
If the numbers aren't working out and you're not profitable, or the ROI is not there in the long run for you, scale it back and readjust, and make sure that the leads and customers that you're bringing on are the right type of customers for your business. So those are things that you have to look at. It's really hard to scale, and we never scaled internally ourselves without having a positive ROI on the targeting and our Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to our audience size, are we limited to how much we can scale, or can we scale, indefinitely?
It depends on what you're targeting. If you're targeting a very niche group, business owners with a college degree that live in Phoenix, Arizona, if that's their audience size, it's going to limit you. And you just got to know that going in, that, hey, business owners that have a college degree that live in Phoenix, Arizona, there's not going to be over 10 million of those people in Arizona. Arizona probably has a population of maybe 2 million. And then
I think it's like 6.
I don't know, who cares?
But when it comes to the audience size, is there like a magic number that we should know in terms of like what should match up? You can spend X amount because there's X amount of people.
Yeah, you should spend $10 per every 1,000 that you have in your audience, and that's the rule of thumb that we use. $10 for every 10,000 people that you have, not 1,000. $10 for every 10,000 people that you have in your audience size.
And that's just what's gonna use your budget most wisely.
Mm-hmm.
So now, when it comes to the lookalike audiences, you mentioned before 1, 2, 3, 5%. So what should we look at when we're scaling there?
You just want to see which percentage of the lookalike is performing for you. So, for example, when you're scaling, let's say you do a 1% lookalike on your custom audience or your list, whatever it is that you have, and that performs really well. And now you're serving ads to those people. You're spending a lot of money on the lookalike, and now what you want to do is reach more people. So you do a 2%. You do a 2% lookalike on your custom audience. That's going to increase your audience size, and it's going to give you more room to spend and reach more people. And you want to test that to see if that's going to continuously be profitable for you. So you just keep working the numbers. It's just basically keep working the numbers and making sure that you're getting ROI as you scale, and just continuously looking at ways you can improve through, testing new ads and all that other stuff as you go along.
Yeah, and last tip that we have for you guys, make sure you change out your ads, because eventually you're going to run into ad fatigue. You're going to use up that whole audience. So just make sure you're changing out your ads, looking at that frequency, as Donberry had mentioned in our previous video. Make sure you don't go over 4. Any other tips you want to give us before we end this video, Donberry?
Reiterate again, make sure you know your numbers and you're tracking it really well before you scale. A lot of people run ads and they don't know their numbers, but they're getting good cost per lead up front, but they're not able to convert those leads into paying customers. And don't just give Facebook your money, actually earn money back.
Exactly. Well, there you have it, you guys. Some tips on scaling, what you should know beforehand, and how you can scale your ad campaign.